is actually the second installment of my Traveling on a Budget series. So after you're done watching this, I highly recommend you check out part 1, whereby I share really great tips on how you can be able to travel on a budget. So my intention is that I want people to be able to travel and just go on little vacations and not break bank and not feel like you're gonna go broke, or if you're broke that you can't be able to have fun and explore other places. So I'm gonna share 6 tips on how you can be able to travel on a budget, have lots of fun, but also come back home and be debt free. So my first example, or tip rather, is to be flexible on the days that you want to travel. So for instance, I recommend not traveling on maybe a Friday or a Monday. I know a lot of people travel on Fridays because it's the end of the weekday or school week or something, and then they want to go out of town. And then also people usually return back on a Monday or a Sunday. And so I highly recommend kind of staying away from those days, a Friday or a Sunday or Monday when you're traveling, because ticket prices for flights are usually more expensive on those days. So maybe consider traveling on a midweek whereby it's a Tuesday, which may seem so random, but you'll be able to save up money, or Wednesday or even a Thursday. You can be able to get better affordable flights on those days. And if you compare yourself, you look through different flight options and stuff, you definitely see a difference on the days that you travel. So be flexible about that, if possible, traveling up midweek rather than the end of the week or the beginning of the week. The second tip I'd give is to compare airport prices. So going back again to flights, is if you, for instance, live in a space whereby you have many, about maybe 2 or 3 or 4 many options in terms of airports, maybe compare those prices. I know I've lived in a big city whereby I had about 3 to 4 options of airports, and so I'll just go in and type in different options and see which area I might be able to get something more affordable for traveling. And so that's what I recommend you do. Now I live in a space whereby we only have 1 regional airport in my local area, but maybe if I drive about 3 hours or extra 4 hours or something like that, I can be able to get ticket prices for much cheaper. And so sometimes that's what my husband and I would do. We'll just kind of drive somewhere, and then we can get something that may cut us like about maybe $200 or $300 less in a flight ticket. So that's something to consider. So be more flexible about that. And of course, if you're gonna drive somewhere and gas will be more expensive and it may add up to whatever amount you're trying to cut off from your flight, then it's not worth it. And just pay the amount from where you're flying from, rather than having to think about gas prices, having to think about parking fees and all that stuff. So it would make no sense for you to just pay all the extra just to save up that $200 when you end up spending way more on just driving to somewhere. So consider that as well. The third thing I would say is use public transportation. So rather than renting out a car or anything like that and having to pay gas for that rental car, maybe just use rideshare options, Uber, Lyft, or maybe you can also just walk or take the bus. It's, in the first video I mentioned, it's being intentional about staying in a space whereby it's close to restaurants or activities. And so maybe you can just use public transportation that might be a quick drive or ride share. And make sure when you're using ride share to rate your drivers and also get good ratings on them as well, and also have a little bit of cash so that you can tip your drivers, because that also will help with your ratings. So keep those things in mind when you're traveling. And public transportation is just easier and better, because if in case you rent out a car, then maybe you might have to pay parking fees for certain places that you go to, and that's just extra money getting out of your pocket. So you don't want that to happen at all. So it may make more sense for you to have rideshare, and they can just drop you off in front of wherever you're going to, and you don't have to think about parking or anything like that. It might be some crazy busy big city that you're going to, and that's one less stress that you can even have, even not even considering the money part. The fourth thing I would say is to have a backpack with you, whereby you can store your ID, your wallet, maybe have some kind of bottled water that you can have, and maybe snacks, because those things add up. It makes me so upset if I go somewhere and I have to pay $5 or $6 for water. Like, that just sounds ridiculous to me. And so that's one way that you can be able to save up money, is by having that little backpack, something lightweight. I'm not saying carry a big old suitcase or anything like that, but just some lightweight thing bag that you can store, maybe a bottle of water and have some snacks with you. Maybe, you can eat out lunch or something, or dinner. That makes more sense. But if you just have little snacks as you're walking around, as you're exploring, maybe you have a lot of walking to do, stay hydrated, stay healthy. And that's something that you can do. And also you can have your cash with you. Highly recommend walking around with cash if you're traveling versus using your card, just for safety reasons. And then you also spend less if you're using cash. The fifth thing I would say is to cook your own meals. For me, when I travel, I love trying the local cuisine and the local foods and areas and the drinks and all that stuff. But if you want to save money, if you're on a budget, I recommend cooking your own meals. So that means that you can go to the grocery store, get stock up on some things and have it in your hotel room or in your Airbnb, whatever you're doing for accommodations, and you can just have those things with you. I highly recommend, for instance, like things like breakfast. Maybe get some fruits or something, little breakfast items that you can have in your room, that you can have. Maybe for lunch you may go eat out, and you can eat out for dinner as well. But having things, items in the space that you're staying in, like breakfast, and also maybe late night snacks, that would be great as well, that you can have those things there, and that's less spending that you get to do. I remember when we went to the Dominican Republic, some girlfriends and I, went grocery shopping and was able to get some items, and we had our nice Airbnb, and a couple of the girls were able to cook some things up, so that was really nice as well. That's another way to spend money and get to travel and still be on a budget. The sixth thing I would say is to use travel reward programs, so that that can help you save up on flights. It can help you save up on maybe housing, or whatever kind of accommodation you choose to go with. For instance, if you are traveling with a group, you can be able to get some really great discounts. If you're in some kind of rewards program and you travel, you can get really nice packages with a group. That's really, really great. And or if you're traveling with your family, and even if you're traveling solo, but you may be someone who's a frequent flyer, frequent traveler, your discounts and your rewards can add up really quickly. And so that'll be a really nice way for you to be able to save up money as you're traveling and exploring. So just a recap of the six things that I mentioned, so you can have an amazing travel experience, but also save up money and not come back being in debt. 1, be flexible. So make sure you get flights that are midweek, not something on a Monday or Friday or a Sunday. The second thing will be compare airport prices. So maybe you might drive to a location for a brief short time, and then after that you can fly out of there, and that might save you a couple hundreds as well. And the third thing is use public transportation. Use some kind of ride share out there rather than renting out a car and having to pay for gas and all that. The fourth thing is have a backpack whereby you can store some essentials and have, water bottle with you and some snacks as you're exploring. Fifth, cook your own meals. Go grocery shopping, have your own meals, have your snacks in your hotel room or in your Airbnb, wherever you may be staying. And the sixth one is use travel reward options so that you can be able to save up money on your accommodations and also on your flights. Have fun traveling.